Hey everyone, with the rerun of the Slime collab over in JP, they also introduced buffs and dream evolutions for all of the older units. I'll go over their newest buffs as well as talk about which of the paths I think you should take. Starting off though with Human Rimuru, his skill now has the added effect of 20 arts. Pretty nice, it's 2 arts a second for himself. His arts heals 5% more, and the status ailment resist duration was increased by 5 seconds. Pretty nice buff as well, that extra heal is very welcome, and the 50% longer duration is helpful since it now makes his art's duration as long as 12th gen Mizuki's art. His true art received a slight modifier increase, as well as now increasing arts by 4 a second rather than 3, meaning he gives 60 in all. Pretty nice, not super insane, especially for modern content, since 60 arts can't really cut it these days. I think 80 or even 100 arts would have been insane, but I guess they don't want the older units to outshine their newer ones. Rimuru also has the added effect of 5% equip CT up. Pretty nice in general for equip CT, although not game changing. As for his dream evolutions, he's the first unit I believe to have 5 separate dream evolutions, so that's pretty interesting. But going over them, Crimson Dream gives all allies 20% fire resist, as well as allowing his skill the extra effect of curing his status elements besides Faint, Paralyze, Freeze, and Seal. Pretty mid. The AoE fire resist is pretty nice, although it's not really anything too crazy. For the Aqueous Dream, it increases his equip CT recovery by 15%, as well as changing his skill to give 50 arts rather than 20. This is actually really good, it makes him so much better as a support, allowing him a total of 20% passive equip CT, and 7 arts a second when you include his passive. I'd definitely choose this one since it makes him rotate his arts and true art really fast. Next is Verdant Dream. It increases Rimuru's heal amount by 20%, as well as adding the effect onto his skill of increasing all allies max HP by 10% for 7 seconds. Pretty mediocre passives as well. The heal amount could be useful with his art, increasing his heal to 42% health, but I wouldn't personally choose this as it's not really going to be game changing by any means. Next is Luminous Dream. It increases his BE output by 20% and adds the effect of increasing his accuracy by 60% for 7 seconds to his skill. Probably the worst passive so far. The accuracy is pretty high, although it's so incredibly niche, as well as the BE output being useless, that there's next to no reason that you would want to choose this. And for the final passive, Spectral Dream, it adds the passive of increasing all demon allies arts by 2 a second, as well as adding the effect to his skill of increasing his attack by 50% for 7 seconds. While the skill effect isn't too insane, the AoE demon arts is actually really nice to be honest. I'd say this is maybe the second best dream evolution if not the best, because while that skill arts increase and equip CT is nice for Rimuru from the Aqueous Dream, this is almost just as good. With the Aqueous Dream, Rimuru gets 7 arts a second including his skill and passive, whereas with Spectral Dream, he'll get 6 arts a second with his passive, skill, and new dream evolution buff, as well as the rest of the team getting 2 arts a second. And I can certainly see giving up that extra 1 arts a second and 15% equip CT to provide a demon team with 2 AoE arts a second. You can make up for that lost equip CT with a crest, and while you won't have that 30% equip CT, I'd rather have 15% equip CT with demon allies getting a strong arts gauge buff that lasts forever, and in the long run will be much more game changing. It basically brings Rimuru from giving 60 arts on his true art to a whopping 90 arts. But generally speaking, Aqueous Dream is going to be better on a wide variety of teams, but for demon teams, I find that the Spectral Dream is going to make much more of a difference, albeit being locked to demon teams only, so there's that. His true weapon has a 45-second CT and decreases the enemy's water resist by 40% for 8 seconds. When used by Rimuru, he gets 2 arts a second and 5% attack. Not terrible, it's pretty okay, and will buff him to 9 total arts a second with Aqueous Dream, and that's without anyone else at all, which is pretty insane. I'd definitely pick it up since it's so cheap at only 20 rainbow gems. Overall though, Rimuru seems to be a bit better than before. He gives a good amount of arts, his cleanse and duration of the status resist is welcome. He's a lot more usable now, although not anything super meta, but his unique art will make him have a place forever. He's especially good with his Aqueous Dream, but on demon teams, he's going to benefit himself and the team a ton from the Spectral Dream. Moving on to regular Milim though, her art had a modifier increase as well as an increase in the duration of her Reflect, an increase in its break, and an increase in the arts that she gives herself. Pretty much what we got in Global. Really nice for her to have that Reflect up for a bit longer than just 4 seconds. Her true art had a decent modifier increase as well, an extra 5 seconds of 100% crit rate, and an extra 3000 break on her true art to a total of 7000 break. Nothing insane, although it'll do a bit more damage and she'll certainly break the bars a lot easier. She has 2 Dream evolutions. Her first, Crimson Dream, increases her crit damage by 200%, as well as giving her 2 arts a second. And her second passive, Verdant Dream, it increases her break power to earth enemies by 100% and 10% more BE output up. Out of the two, you're definitely going to want to choose Crimson Dream. It gives her a very sizable 200% crit damage up, and the passive arts up is going to be insane as well. She can actually somewhat be used as a DPS if you really want to, and her innate crit on True Art will allow her to benefit from the passive a lot more. The break power is nice, especially against earth enemies, which would make her an actual usable breaker against earth units, but it's such a niche situation, as well as there being better alternatives, that it's not really worth the waste in materials. For her true weapon, it's a 5-star magic, and for 8 seconds, it reduces the enemy's fire resist by 40% with a 45-second CT. It gives Milim 50% break power and attack, as well as 5% attack up. It's nothing too insane. I wish it had some passive arts up, although the attack up is welcome with her crit since it'll be a nice boost. The break power is actually fairly noticeable, and while she shouldn't be a dedicated breaker, she'll do a noticeably higher amount of break. Personally though, I wouldn't pick it up since there are plenty of better options besides it, especially since you'll want her to be a DPS. Overall though, it seems like they want Milim to be more break oriented. Although she did get a good DPS boost with the Crimson Dream, she could actually be usable as a DPS for beginner players, but she's not really too game changing or too great on the later stages of the game. Moving on to the next unit, Benimaru. His skill got a noticeably better boost in art gen, really good actually. His arts had a slight modifier increase, as well as 20% more damage for the damage buff. Nothing insane, but more damage is always welcome. For his true art, it got a pretty good modifier increase, as well as now having a 100% chance to burn for 16 seconds, and enemies that are burnt now get a crazy debuff of 120% magic resist down. That's actually an insanely high debuff, with the only units that's close being like Rin or Narbarrel, although it being tied to burn is kind of unfortunate. Benimaru also has the added passive of 50 arts at the start of the quest. Pretty nice to get him going. He has 2 Dream evolutions, starting with Crimson Dream. It increases his crit damage by 150%, as well as 50% crit rate up to burning enemies. His second Dream evolution, Spectral Dream, increases all allies' magic damage by 30% and accuracy by 20%. Out of the two, I'd definitely choose Crimson Dream since it'll give him that strong 150% crit damage. And for the 50% crit rate to burning enemies, it'll pair with his 50% passive crit to give him a 100% total crit rate. Although it does ride on the enemy being burnt. Spectral Dream is pretty nice for a magic team, as well as that niche accuracy, but nothing really game changing. For his true weapon, it's a 5-star physical. It reduces the enemy's fire resist by 40% for 8 seconds with a 45-second CT. And when used by Benimaru, he gets 50% accuracy up, as well as 100 arts at the start of the quest with 5% attack up. It's kind of unfortunate that it gives accuracy, although the arts gauge up at the start is nice for him to get going, but overall it's not a very good true weapon. Overall though, for Benimaru, he's definitely a lot better than he was before. His insane magic debuff is actually really strong now, and with Crimson Dream, he can actually put up an insane amount of damage. But the glaring flaw of his kit is everything is pretty much tied to burning. And in nearly all new and hard content, bosses either have a resistance or just completely negate most status ailments. And while it's nice that he has a 100% chance to burn, that means pretty much nothing if the boss has a resistance to it. I do wish they either added another Dream Awakening or added another effect to one of the 2 Dream Awakenings to allow his art to lower burn resist by like 50% or something. If that were the case, I could unironically see him being used on lots of missions, as well as a lot of harder quests. But without it, he's kinda just mediocre, although he'll become a strong debuffer and attacker on stages that he's allowed to burn on. For the 4th unit, it's gonna be Santorimru. His skill CT was lowered to 12 seconds, as well as increasing the arts, attack, and heal from each rotation. They're actually pretty nice changes. The arts gauge and heal rotations are gonna have noticeable changes in gameplay, which is really good. His art has a very minor modifier increase, as well as 5 more arts. It's basically the same as before, although it is still a pretty strong art. His true art got a modifier increase, as well as an additional 20% damage for regular damage and magic damage, totaling the 40% more damage, or a total of 160% damage. It's a pretty nice buff, I guess. I do wish it was a bit more, like 200% total or even more. But for his stream evolutions, Aqua's stream increases all ally skill CT by 20% and increases his damage to non-boss enemies under 30% HP by 50%. For Luminous Stream, when an ally dies, he revives that ally back with 50% HP once per quest. It's pretty much a no-brainer that you're going to want to choose Aquaya's Stream. The skill CT isn't anything too crazy, although it will help to increase how often he uses his skill, and considering how good they are, that's definitely pretty nice. The 50% damage up is also pretty nice as well. It's a really sizable damage buff increase for Santa Rimuru, but it's not really game changing. As for his true weapon though, it's a 5-star support, and it increases all allies' arts by 15, and for 15 seconds increases all allies' damage by 20%. When used by Santa Rimuru, it doubles the arts and damage buff of the equip, as well as 5% HP up. It's actually a pretty good true weapon for Santa Rimuru, although it's literally just a copy and paste of Mako's true weapon, but I think that for the damage that they didn't include in his true art, it's certainly welcome. With his passive increasing water and demon allies damage by 30%, that equals to 60% for a water demon, and with his true art and true weapon, it's nearing a 260% AoE damage buff, which is actually pretty insane. It is very specific, so generally speaking, it'll mostly be either water or demons, so 230% damage with the true weapon and true art, but still insane nevertheless. I'm definitely going to pick up this true weapon if it does come to global. Overall though, while nothing OP, Santa Rimuru is in a sense a bit more usable now. His magic damage buffing isn't nearly as impressive as Rin or Star God Liza, but for what he does, he's certainly usable. His arts gauge and damage resist on arts still keeps him in the game in a sense as well. So overall, it's just a great buff for him, and the buffing on his skills makes him a lot better as well, giving a good amount of art gen and heals from it. I'm glad he got as good of a buff as he did since he used to be one of my favorite units. Of course, he's still not game breaking, but it'll be fun to use him again if they ever bring this to global. That's 4 of the 8 units so far. I'll probably cut it off here so that the video doesn't go on forever. I'll do the other 4 probably tomorrow, those 4 units being Santa Milim, Santa Shion, Samurai Rimuru, and New Year's Milim. But so far, it's looking like the best units are going to be Human Rimuru and Santa Rimuru. Human Rimuru is a usable art gen and healer, as well as cleanser who provides status element resist, which is a very rare ability. Santa Rimuru is a strong magic damage buffer, especially for demons or water units. He also provides some art gen from his skill, as well as healing, and his art is able to give the team some arch gen, as well as a good amount of giant boss damage resist. Let me know your thoughts about the units though, and if you're going to be going for any of them in particular. I'm hoping that if the crossover does come to global, I can get Human Rimuru. But anyways, if you did enjoy the video, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed to the channel. I'll try to release the second part of the Dream Evolution soon, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.